Hello Jeep fans, Steve Blankard here again. Hey, some of you have expressed interest in this D18 transfer case project that I've been working on. So I thought I would recap a couple, basically there's three special tools that I've kind of found out that I needed to do this, to get this all taken apart. But first let me say that, and I mentioned this before, this is the first time I've ever rebuilt one of these transfer cases, so I'm learning as I go. There's a lot of guys out there that know a lot more about these than I do, and so please look at get their advice. Look at the Rick Stivers videos, look at Metal Shapers videos, Schnitzelhaus videos, and the Novak rebuild guide. All of them are really, really good. But from an amateur standpoint, let me show you a couple things that I've done. I think I showed some of this earlier, but just to kind of recap. First off is getting the parking brake drum off. If you have one of these in the CJ2A style, this drum can be a real bear to get off the back of the transfer case, so it's really tight on the splines. So I made this simple puller here out of a piece of angle iron, and I welded a third side on it, and welded a big 7/16 nut in the middle, and made a screw, or I took a bolt, turned a point on it so it fits into the end of the shaft, so it attaches with two of the four companion flange bolts, and then I can tighten it up and it would pull the drum off the splines. And it worked really good. It's a simple kind of homemade tool. It's hard to use a 3-jaw or a 2-jaw puller on this, because while you have holes to hook, these holes are slanted, so the jaw wants to slip off the hole, so it's really difficult to do. So a simple tool like this, I mean, even better would be to grab on all four bolts, but it's just tight on the spline, so I think the 2 bolts worked fine for me. So anyway, that's a simple tool there just to get the drum off, to start taking it apart. The second tool I want to show you is this one here. This is really slick. Now when you get into the disassembly guide, and they talk about disassembling the output shaft here, the difficult thing, and I don't know how well you can see this, but this, and I've just got these assembled loosely right now, but this gear and this bearing are tight together. And there's a snap ring that goes in that little groove down in there, right in here. But you can't get to it because this bearing is on there tight, and it's right up against that gear. Now the shop manual shows a special tool that Willie's had for separating the bearing from that gear. Rick Stivers made a tool from a small axe or a hatchet, cutting a big notch out that he could fit it over that like a fork and hammer it in and drive it and separate those two. And that works, apparently. That seemed a little crude for me. But then I found I'm on the CJ2A forum a lot, and there's a fellow over there named Joe DeYoung. He's a machinist, and he makes this tool, which is just really, really slick. And I gotta give a shout out to him, because I decided this is one tool that I decided to purchase. And you can see it's 2 halves, and you take it apart and you slip it right down between those two, the gear and the bearing, because it's got a very narrow lip in there that fits down between it. And then these 2 bolts, sorry, I only have 2 hands here. These 2 bolts come through the holes in the transfer case in the side here. So this tool bolts up against the side of it solidly. And then you can tap on the end of the shaft with a soft mallet, or put it in the press, because that bearing is on there tight, and tap the shaft out that way, and then that will separate the bearing and the gear, so you can get down to that snap ring there, get your snap ring pliers in there, and you want those flat duck jaw type snap ring pliers to get that snap ring out of the groove and loose. And once that's loose, then you can pull the whole shaft and everything out and get it all taken apart. But this tool really works good. I've taken apart 2 transfer cases now in the last 2 weeks, and I know I couldn't have done it without this or making the modified axe head tool. But this is a really slick, and really it's well worthwhile. To me, it was well worthwhile purchasing. So a really nice tool. The third one is what I was just showing earlier yesterday and today, and that's my little bushing driver. Now I showed you this some pictures earlier. So where this goes is this bushing is inside the output shaft here. Let me get a light on here so you can see the bushing. This is the new one I got pressed in here, so that's inside there. and the output clutch shaft, which is this right here, rides inside that bushing. So you need to make sure that this is really nice and smooth. Now I put this in the lathe and I polished it with some Mother's aluminum polish, which really works good on steel. And so mine was at 4.424. So this slips into that bushing and this rides inside that really nicely. So having some type of bushing driver, because you need to seat that bushing to 0.560 deep inside. You don't want to push it too far because there's an oil hole in the shaft. You don't want to cover that up. So it needs to be set to a specific depth. So that's why I made this little tool with a step on it. The bushing fits on here. Then this part here is the 5.560 depth, so that drives it in just to the proper depth. So it worked out really good. Now you might have to ream this with a reamer. The Novak guide says it should be 0.628. I've seen some other online things saying that up to about 0.625. You just want a thou or two clearance from the clutch shaft, the pilot of the clutch shaft here. So depending on what yours is, mine was 424. When I got done pressing this in, mine came to 6.255. So about a thou and a half clearance. So once I get that lubed up, it's going to work really, really well. So anyway, these are these three tools that I've kind of realized that I needed as I went, and I was able to make two of them and purchase one. So I'm finally past all the dirty, nasty take-apart stuff, and as you can see, I've got all my parts laid out here. So I've got parts on order from several places now, so I'm just waiting for everything to come in. Unfortunately, Novak is back ordered on their intermediate shaft, and that's the key part. They make a really, really high quality one. I won't say it's better than anybody else's, but that's what they say. So anyway, so it'll be a few weeks probably till I get that in. So in the meantime, I'm probably working on other little projects while I'm waiting. So anyway, so that's my three little tools, a few little tips and lessons learned along the way. Hope you enjoy this. You like learning a little bit, just like I've been learning. Learn along with me. And if you got any other suggestions or tips to help me out, please let me know. All right, thanks, folks. Talk to y'all later. Bye.